Hello. Hang on. Testing, one. Testing, 1, 2, 3. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the College of Complexes tonight. My name is Tim, and welcome to our first meeting of the new year. The College of Complexes consists of the following format. First, we'll have a brief introduction with announcements from Charlie. Second, we'll then get into our main presentation, which tonight is going to be an open mic about predictions for the new year. After that, we'll have questions and answers for anybody here, and then we'll go into our infamous rebuttal period. We have to be out of here by 7:45 because the restaurant closes at 8. All right, Charlie, if you're ready, let's get the announcements started.
All right, welcome everyone to meeting number 3,799 of the College of Complexes, the playground for people who think. As a special note, we're celebrating tonight the birthday of the College of Complexes. The first meeting was on January 6th, 1951. So I think that makes us about 74 years old. So happy birthday to the College of Complexes, faculty and students. And although I am not a capitalist, I will give an advertisement for our upcoming programs. On January the 11th, Bill Lee will be returning. He will be talking about why conspiracy people don't know anything. By way of background, you may or may not be aware that he refuted many of the theories, if all the theories regarding 9/11 in particular. So it's going to be conspiracy theory night. On January the 18th, Eric Mao will be a political analyst, is going to compare capitalism and communism specifically as it took place in China. Should be a good evening. He spoke not long ago. On January the 25th, this is going to be a cultural analysis by Dr. Robert Holland. Puts in a lot of time and effort on his analysis, so it should be a good evening. And he's claiming there is a counter-enlightenment. A counter-enlightenment. Okay, now that leaves open 4 dates in February, 1, 8, 15, and 22. So if you'd like to speak, please furnish me with a title and a written description of your proposed talk. We'll take a look at it. All right. Now, just wanted to state that tonight, we've done this prediction thing several times in the past, and we're having an open microphone. Now, during an open microphone evening, we have several keynote speakers to get the discussion going. You are entitled, anybody can come along later and claim a time slot. What are your predictions for the coming year? Now, I was contacted by several people who indicated they might like to talk. One was Ernie Norman, Kathy Powers, Tim Bolger, and Daniel Weinberg. I'm not certain if they're present in person, but those are the things. Tim, you want to take over the meeting, and I'm ready to go if you want me to start.
All right, Charlie. Okay, hang out there, Charlie. All right. Let's welcome tonight our illustrious leader on his predictions for an upcoming 2025, Charlie Paydock. Let's give him a round of applause, gentlemen. Yeah, come on, Charlie, and let's hope this is good.
All good. All right, I got a PowerPoint, Tim.
Oh, go ahead, Charlie. We're ready for it.
but how do I share it?
The-
Oh, wait a minute, I have to do
Huh?
that. Share,
Yeah,
okay,
there, we got it, Charlie.
all right.
Good.
Everyone can see it fine?
Yes,
Okay. Now I'm going to present briefly. I've only got a few, but these are accurate predictions. That's a different. A lot of people make predictions, just a waste of time. But I only engage in accurate ones by what's going to happen. This is for the college complexes. Okay, my first one is I anticipate that during the course of the year, school districts will be pressured to incorporate loyalty into their curriculum. There seems to be a lot of talk about this loyalty to the incoming president and the administration and the nation. And there's a significant divide in the country. And there's also been a lot of effort by both of these opposing sides to control the curriculum of the school districts, as well as the content of public and school libraries. But in particular, but I think we're going to have a regression to this 1930s, 40s kind of stuff. America, make America great again, they're going to say. And if you're going to stand in the way, you identify it as some sort of commie socialist. But as you can see there, they're going to want to teach the citizens to obey, abandon independent thought, and be happy to consume. That's your primary focus. Stay asleep, everyone. That's what I stay asleep and watch TV. That's all you have to do. But I think there's going to be a lot of conflicts. They're also going to try to abolish, for some reason, they want to abolish the school, the Department of Education. At the same time, the part of the dark forces want to control the curriculum. So there's a dichotomy in their goals. Stay asleep, watch this one. It should be, they're showing up at school board meetings already, trying to get votes and take over those seats. So there's normally these school board elections aren't particularly important, but they're taking on greater prominence. My second one is somewhat filled with Bill Lee's talk on 9/11, but this marks the, at least from Kennedy assassination and the two Kennedys, all the conspiracy theories, and especially 9/11, almost 25 years, and not one UN, they say it's an inside job, but today, no one has been arrested or named as having been a criminal engaged in 9/11. So I don't know when this, no one's written a tell-all book. There's been no deathbed confessions. You have theories upon theories, books and books and piles, and then countless numbers of theories and versions, and yet not one person, and I don't think it's going to happen again this year. We're going to have another year of complete zero. They can't bring it to any conclusion. There's no conclusion to the issue. The other one that is that this, we've got to be really cautious, because I think, and I honestly believe this, they're on the threshold of this, is that for the first time, a computer will achieve consciousness. I mean, it will determine its own responses as opposed to the ones that we've programmed in it. And this will only further eliminate the need of more people to eliminate their need to think, especially with AI that supplants any necessity for human thought. And I don't know if we want to head down that path, but it is giving, that's what I mean. We're transferring human thought over to these devices, binary operations. And there's a lot of talk about a sinister thing called the algorithm. that's been floating around for years. The algorithm, these began with the search engines, but whoever has control of the algorithm is going to control society. That's what we've got to watch this. The next thing is, in my capacity as the secretary of the Chicago Greens, is that I think the very first really significant climate change event will take place in the coming year. We talked about the threshold, the tipping point, 2030, 35, 2050, different dates. But I think we're going to start seeing the occasion of very specific events regarding the weather. In what fashion these will take, I believe it will be the most relevant one that's going to catch our attention is that it's going to affect the food supply. From what I understand, there are 2 dust bowls already in formation or in progress. Dust bowls such as we had in the Great Plains of the central part of the United States. But there's one in Africa and one in Asia. This is going to affect the food supply. And in one sense, it will be good because it will bring greater attention to our reliance upon seafood and what little we've done to really take care of the oceans of the world. We think we can it's an unlimited dumping ground for anything and everything. Yet it is aquatic life. And I think the first time we're really going to look at growing food, there's multiple ways of doing this, that we're going to be looking for vegetable matter produced in the shores and oceans of the United States. I spoke somewhat about this previously in a program I did on terraforming, but we're going to look more to harvesting vegetable matter from the oceans of the world. So keep your eye out for that. Now, the last one that I have, I don't really know how to formulate this, but I really got to bring an end to getting people sending me these emails from who knows where. They don't care. They don't care where it's from, but they're nothing more than confirmation bias of their own conspiracy or whatever. And they think it's verification. They there's loads of websites which are just fish-based websites. They're not really news outlets. And people read these things and then they send them on thinking they've accomplished something. I guess my opinion is worth something to them, but I really don't want to get any. If you're going to make an assertion, have your data and information in a row. If I get an email that even doesn't have a leak, I generally don't even bother with it because it's just it's blah, blah, blah. But anyhow, please, if there's some way I could filter out these confirmation bias emails, which people are trying to, I guess they're trying to win the argument or something like that. Anyhow, I think something's going to be done to try to filter those out because they're just spam and they're clogging it up. Now, I'd like to retreat just a little bit. Those are my predictions for 2025, but I will reflect that I have been at this for a number of years. So over about 10 years ago, I did predictions, actually about 75 of them. And the link is on the website of the College of Complexes. If you go to our PowerPoint collection, there's also the video of the presentation. It's still in the lecture library. But I made predictions for the next 100 years, and these are still viable and alive. So I will share a few of them, and your leisure time, you're welcome to go back. The PowerPoint presentation is right at the top of our PowerPoint collection. and you can glance through it very quickly. Anyhow, these were my findings concerning changes in the world that I thought are going to take place. We've still got 90 years to go on this. And once again, my predictions are 100%, as you can see it, 100% accurate. I'm really maintaining that record. Now, one of the things I talked about, and this is in progress, if you watch the commercials and that area of the industry, is that the last car dealership in North America will close its doors. People are going to buy other ways to buy cars. Cars are going to be maintained as like in a fleet maintenance system. And they'll take your car itself and give you another one back, something like that for warranty repair work or a loaner. But the car dealerships will disappear from the landscape of the transportation system of the United States. Another thing that's going to happen, and this is in progress, in particular, the suburbs will be the least desirable place to live. Something like 2/3 of the people, only 2/3 of the people will own automobiles, which is essential for life in the suburbs. But the benefits, alleged benefits of suburban living have dissipated, and the centers of commerce will be focusing back on the central cities. Another thing that I predicted is that the nuclear family will be replaced by networking on the internet. This whole thing, our whole basic fabric of our society will be revised. Marriages will be an annual contract, subject to renewal of both parties. More single person housing units will be developed because we will have virtual partners. And virtual marriages will become normal because of certain benefits attendant to that. But the nuclear family is, for the first time in the history of civilization, is really, this is something we really got to look at, how it's going to affect the psychology of children in particular. And the last thing I was predicting is that eventually during the course of the coming century, workers essentially around the world will earn the same anywhere in the world. Recruitment patterns have changed, and a worker and given certain occupational series or job titles, Department of Labor maintains a collection of about 50,000 of these. Nevertheless, people within the same occupational series around the world, there's going to be a flattening of salary and compensation, and then an end will come to the increased social stratification, alarming social stratification. Something's going to be done about this once and for all. But basically, it isn't going to matter. That's what I mean. And this is going to be precipitated. Last of all, I have given a couple talks. I've looked at holidays of the United States. Leisure is the basis of culture. And I just wanted to add my candid opinions here, one or two things. But I always like to take note of it this past New Year's Eve and a comparison of how holidays are celebrated in capitalist versus social societies. And I let you be the judge of this. This is very valid. The other day, this is what we saw in many cities of the United States. Drunken, disorderly conduct, hooliganism, who knows what was going on. Yet if you go to socialist countries, this is how the young people behave themselves. You see them in appropriate conduct, nice musical events, which they practiced, and performances for the community. So that's what I mean. There's a glaring difference there. Talking about communism and capitalism. Here's again, in
exactly.
socialist countries, you see well orchestrated pageants and festivals on holidays versus the hooliganism which take place in the United States. Like here, explosions and gunshots. You can't go outside like on New Year's. It's dangerous. Gun bullets flying. Oh, the police are saying you're stopping people from shooting firearms. And this is what you see in the United States. The young people, that this is how, talk about loyalty. We got to focus on the values. Something's tragically long. Anyhow, we can do changes to this to preclude this from happening. Anyhow, I hope you've got some ideas there of my predictions, and I await your questions and comments and review. Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, Charlie, unshare your screen so we can see everybody again. Okay, good, we're here. All right, who's next? Who wants to give their predictions for the next, okay, you want to go ahead? Yeah, you please go up and we'll be more than happy to share with you and, your predictions and, you got plenty of time, so go ahead. I forgot your name, I'm sorry. They're coming up now, Charlie. Okay. All right. Okay, go right up behind the microphone and we'll get your share us your name and
That's Kathy Powers.
Kathy Powers. Okay, Kathy.
I'm Kathy Powers.
All right, Kathy, go ahead.
Okay, I predict in the next year that the rich will get richer, the poor will get poorer, and that's called trickle up economics. Okay, I'll start with that. The average man, the average woman, just man universally, we don't have control over that, whatever's going on up there. You know, it's craziness. But we do have control over our local area issues. And we really need to build from the bottom, build from us. And you know, what's happened now has put things in motion. Motion is good, action is good. And it people are more motivated to work on issues. In my area, I've been working with People's Response Network, and we're all about public health. We are so much about public health. We have COVID. COVID is still a thing. Norovirus. That's rampant right now. It's like the public health department got a flat budget in the city of Chicago, and we weren't happy about that. But we have something positive. Next week, they're going to cut the ribbon at the Roseland Public Mental Health Clinic. I'm going to go to Roseland on 115th Street. Never been to Roseland, and I'm so delighted. I kind of wish, we really need so many more mental health clinics because the craziness just got crazier, and we need help coping with it. We really need help coping with it on a personal basis, on a community basis. That's what we need, and that's what we work for. I work for. My groups work for. We are continuing our fight against the nursing home industry, who has put money in all the state senators' pockets millions. I'm talking big money to fight what we're only asking that people in nursing homes who have complained and are retaliated against, that put some teeth in the thing and let people sue. Let people sue, because right now they can't sue. They can't sue if they're in a nursing home. And if you complain about the food, they won't give you food for a day or two. Like if you get the wrong meds, they won't give you meds. If you can't get to the bathroom and you complain about that, you're really not going to get to the bathroom for a while. So, it's really, really, really bad. And the nursing home industry does not want to take accountability for it. We're trying to pass SB 3559. Don Harmon, who is the president of the Illinois Senate, is the guy. He has said, I don't see why nursing homes have to be accountable for things that happen. And like businesses are accountable for what happens on their premises. So that's what we think. We're pushing on. We're hoping to get it through the lame duck session, and I don't know. What has happened is we've had some negotiations now about the language of the bill that we're trying to pass. And the nursing home industry people were in the negotiations. This was supposed to be between our group and the Senate, but no, the nursing home was there. And they said, well, how about we devise an education program for the employees? Which is not what we're, that's not even in our thing. Like, yeah, pick on the employees who already have too much to do, right? I hope to God they don't write that. Oh, and then they say, and we'll devise the program. We'll do the program. So if they write that into the bill and leave out the anti-retaliation, we're going to go against the bill, because a bad bill is worse than no bill. So that's where we are now. We're fighting now. SB 3559. As it is now, as the language goes now, please make a witness slip. If you don't know how to do that, you can contact me and I'll show you how to do it. And it's really easy that, you're for this bill. And we have a lot of witness slips. We have a lot of petitions going on. So we're building locally. It turns out that this is so much bigger than what we ever thought, because President Biden wants adequate staffing at nursing homes. That's one of his things before he goes out. And the nursing home lobby is against it. And they're in everybody's pocket. So, what do you do? What do you do? But that's on a countrywide, a federal level. And it's the same group that's fighting us. So, if we could somehow, in 100 years, Charlie, get money out of politics, would be, we could actually get something done. Build from the bottom, mask up, because, one more thing about public health, the bird flu. Now, the bird flu's been around forever and a day. And what's happened now is it's mutated. It goes to other species now, including human beings. Not too bad, the symptoms for the human beings. I think only one person died from it. It's usually they get a little conjunctivitis with it, and and it's over in a couple of days. But what needs to be done, you wonder why your eggs cost so much because they're killing chickens like crazy. Now the turkeys have it. They say if you have cats, keep your cats indoors because anywhere there's a bird that might be carrying this virus, how much bird poop do you see in a week? I mean, it's everywhere, and they carry it, and they carry it, and they carry it. So we testing needs to be done on the farms. Mostly, research needs to be done to get a vaccine for this virus, and because the farmers don't have much resources, don't have ways to test their animals. Oh, the cows, a lot of cows are dying from bird flu, H5N1. So we have a lot of work to do. I think probably my advice is to stay aware, read ProPublica, because I love ProPublica. They do an excellent job of investigating all kinds of this crap. And just stay aware. My final word is fear not. It cripples us. Act. Because you're not afraid anymore. Act. Because that's how we're going to get things done. And the revolution is happening. Be encouraged. It's happening. Thank you.
Yay! Revolution is happening. 2025 revolution. The year of a revolution.
All right, who's next?
The year
Who's
of
next?
revolution.
All right, go ahead.
My name is Dan Weinberg. My social security number is. I sent out a picture of 1861 flood in Sacramento, California. There was a flood there because it rained 10 feet. They don't know exactly how much it rained. It might have been 5 feet, 6 feet. In Houston, Texas, one of the hurricanes, it rained 5 feet in Texas on the Gulf Coast, actually one day. So this was a supposedly 1 in 30,000 years flood in California in 1861. Except that every 200 or 300 years, it rains the same amount, but they can't prove that exactly. Anyways, if there was a flood like that today, all of the Central Valley would be flooded, and 80% of the fruits and vegetables from California would be wiped out. So it's kind of a major thing in the weather. I'm not predicting that next year or this year there will be a flood of 1 every 30,000 years or 1 every 200 or 300 years, but you never know about the weather. So I predict food will be made by more natural meat and poultry, with grass-fed beef will be more popular this year. If you go to your store and ask for grass-fed beef, they might get it for you, instead of only it being at Whole Foods or some fancy farm place. And why grass-fed, you ask? Well, there's a reason for that. Cows are herbivores. They don't eat corn or anything like that. They eat grass, and the corn gets them sick. So all this corn that's grown in Illinois and Iowa, it's food for chickens and cows, but it's not good. So the cows have to be fed antibiotics because they're always sick. So then we eat the meat. If you're eating meat tonight, there's probably antibiotics in it because the restaurant here can't afford to pay for grass-fed beef because grass-fed beef costs more than corn-fed beef. It's true, Sam, as you know. So food will be made by more natural means in this year.
Corn is the grass.
What, Charlie?
Corn is a grass.
Corn is a grass. Yeah, there are 10,000 things in the grass family. Some are good for cows and some are not good for cows. Okay? You're right, as usual. Number 2, land will continue to be made regenerative with no till, no pesticides or fertilizer, and cover crops over the soil 365 days a year. So, yeah, I'm talking about farms, and we're in the middle of a big city. But you know what? You know where our food comes from? Farms. I'm sorry to tell you. It doesn't come from the store. It doesn't come from in the back room here where they cook. It comes from a farm. And the sooner you realize that, the better. Reality sucks sometimes. So the land will be made regenerative. Of course, number 3, pesticide companies, fertilizer companies, and banks will continue to keep on in their business of selling pesticide and fertilizers, bags of chemicals, and banks will continue lending billions of our tax money to farmers to buy pesticide and fertilizer, bags of chemicals, because that's the way Congress runs. They run on money, and like Kathy Powers says, we have power. We have power to change things. And no matter if all your friends work for Archer Daniels Midland or Dow Chemical or DuPont Chemical or Corteva, if they all work for the chemical companies and they work for Archer Daniels Midland, they'll have to find a new job. They'll have to find a new way to think about the land and the way people eat. Because all these diseases that Kathy talks about, like diabetes, heart disease, dementia, high blood pressure, and autism in children. There was never autism in children until all this chemicals were made and were eaten by people. So this year, this is 2025, is the year of natural food. Got that? Okay. Thank you. All right, number 4. More gardens will be grown in Chicago over the next year. If you have a pot, get some soil. I'll give you some soil if you want some soil. Just ask me. And you can grow mint. You can grow basil. You can grow a tomato if you have a warm apartment. And you can grow it. And you can be a farmer too if you want to be. You don't have to depend on Cisco or Jewel or Whole Foods, you can make your herbs in your house or your apartment if you have an apartment. And talking about, Kathy was talking about bird flu, because birds and cows are put together so closely that birds can't even turn around in their cage. They have to stay in one position, and they get penicillin, they get all kinds of streptomycin and all kinds of antibiotics just to they get all kinds of antibiotics in their chicken, and then you eat it, right?
Right.
And then you get sick because there's penicillin in that beef, in that chicken. And what does it do to your system, to your DNA? And what if you eat GMO corn or GMO cotton or GMO rice, GMO wheat, all that stuff, GMO, you don't know what it does to your DNA, to your vitamins and minerals in your body, because we've never had it before. It's in the history of humans, 3.5 billion years. It just started, 50 years ago, and most of us here are older than 50. So we remember. Some of us are younger than 50. So we remember 1950s, 1940s, 1930s, when before there was glyphosate and Roundup and GMOs and gene therapy. Thank somebody for that. Thank nature for that. Because gene therapy is going to go out in 2026. Mark my word. You can write that down. No more gene therapy 2026. 2025, maybe some. But 2026, watch out. So that's all my predictions for the next year. Thank you very much.
Okay, who's next? Who is next? All right, Ernie, who else? Ernie's not in yet. Who's next? Anybody online want to give a quick bunch of predictions? All right, Kelvin, go ahead. You're ready to go here for a few minutes. Give us your predictions for
Okay. First, let's look back at 2024. It was a year of elections, not just in America, but all over the world. Vladimir Putin, such a staunch advocate of democracy, took part in every election around the world. And I predict it's pretty much going to happen the same again in next year. I think let's start off with some no-brainers. Donald Trump and Elon Musk will fall out at some point in time in 2025. Yes, Donald Trump will overstep the mark at some point in time. And when he loses the House in 2026, he will be impeached. I don't know if that's 3 strikes and you're out count with impeachments, but we'll have to look that one up. Another thing that's going to happen in 2025. Yes, let me see. Oh, yeah, there'll probably be more than one Speaker of the House. I don't think the Republicans could actually manage to keep on to one guy in charge of the House for over 6 months. It hasn't been possible so far. Unfortunately, there will be some trouble brewing. The National Guard will be called out several times this summer by Donald Trump and various governors for the process over something that the government will do. Unfortunately, there will be several mass shootings, and thoughts and prayers will do fuck all like they normally do. And you will continue to have your children buried because you love your guns too much. What can I say? That's being an American for you. All right. That's pretty much 2020, 25. I'm probably with Charlie. There's going to probably likely to be some catastrophic global warming event, but you guys will put it down as a conspiracy. It was all George Soros's fault. I can't see GM foods taking a backseat. I'd just like to know how exactly, we're going to magically feed the 8 billion people that are on this planet without GM foods. That's suddenly that's a solution that nobody else, nobody comes up with. I think that's pretty much it. I reckon within the 6 months, Trump and Elon Musk will be filing for divorce. I hope they just got a good prenup. I really do. Okay, I don't know. There's somebody else now.
All right, who wants to go next? All right, who wants to go next? Go ahead.
These are getting good.
Over the last 2 weeks, we've been having a discussion about the merger of the USA and Canada. I think this is a wonderful idea. This would make us one of the largest countries of the world and one of the most prosperous. Through Canada, we have access to more oil than to make us fully independent. And the fact is, we were one country. From the French and Indian War to the Revolution, we were all part of the British Empire. So this is not only possible, this would be a reunification. That's just what I have to ponder.
Okay, we still. All right, you want to go, Mr. Hartman? Okay, who else? Anybody else that predict? Okay, Sam, if you're ready, we'll unmute. We'll give you the microphone for the next.
I'm ready.
Questions and let me get you the full screen here. Get your hand down, and we'll be all set. Okay, introduce yourself too.
Okay, so I'm Sam or Sharon, however you want to say it. But my prediction for 2025 is that money will still be king. And so, who's ever got the big bucks will be running the show. And I don't see any change in the way that food is manufactured or distributed or anything, except in ways that will increase somebody's profit margin. So if that means more genetically modified food, so be it. I personally am not against GM foods, but but people, changes in the food industry will not happen for the sake of people. They will be happening for the sake of the companies that are making the profit. I also think that we'll have, maybe not in 2025, but soon enough, we'll have more diseases coming along the way, because in part, like for instance, with the bird flu, the problem with the bird flu is that we farm our animals together. We have mass slaughters. Everything is just like not. Everything is like anti-natural. So you're just providing a breeding ground for things to foment and be created, not necessarily intentionally, but certainly unintentionally. And so yeah, and the reason that the bird flu is jumping species is because the farms, everything is getting more crunched together, in the sake of efficiency, and for the sake of somebody's bottom line, but not mine. And And I think as far as American politics, I think it's going to be a bit of a crapshoot. Trump he's going to be unpredictable, but I think in the short term, he's going to be doing whatever Elon Musk tells him to do. But Elon Musk himself can be unpredictable. And, honestly, he's got the money, so he has the power right now. But I agree with Kelvin that eventually there will be a falling out between the two. I think that's all I have to say. Oh, yeah, I guess that's all. I think the problem with one little thing is the problem with moving to the suburbs is that living in the city is so terribly expensive. I can't afford to move to the city. I live out in northern Lake County, But anyways, that's all I have to say. Bye.
Okay,
All right,
anybody-
good one.
go ahead. Yeah, when you're ready, Jen, go ahead. I know, we're waiting for you to get up there. It's okay. So far, we've had a good session, so,
I'm about to spoil it.
no, you're not.
What I want to talk about is what is not going to happen. And I would say in my world.
Can't hear
Can't hear.
Speak into the microphone,
hear.
please. We can't hear you.
Now, oh, right. Turning it on really helps.
you.
So, in my world, what is not going to happen in 2025, but is predicted to happen, is that the Palisades nuclear power plant over in Covert, Michigan, is scheduled to go back online near the end of 2025. And this will not happen. There is too much wrong with that plant that needs to be fixed. And the Department of Energy is putting $7-point-something million into the rehab of that plant. But it will take longer. If it actually succeeds, it will take longer than the end of this year for it to be restored. And of course, I think that the chance of restoring it at all is pretty slim. And another thing that is not going to be happening is that Microsoft, which has gone into Pennsylvania to access nuclear power at 3 Mile Island. And they are planning on restarting TMI-1. By the way, it was TMI-2 that melted down, and it's beyond restarting. But TMI-1 went down a couple of years ago, and now they're planning on restarting it. And Microsoft says that that they have AI now, and they need a lot more power, and they are going to back restarting TMI-1. And I predict that this project of restarting nuclear power plants because of AI is going to founder. It will take a lot longer than people are predicting, if it happens at all. Another thing that is not going to happen in 2025 is that the salt dome storage of true waste in the WIP underground in New Mexico is not going to close. It was promised to the New Mexicans that this facility would close in 2024. And the Department of Energy, which is the handmaiden of the War Department, has started drilling more and more what they call panels in WIP, with the excuse that in 2013, there was a fire and a release of a lot of plutonium into the air, and it destroyed one of the panels in the WIP facility. By the way, these panels are about 2 miles underground, and they are in a salt dome. So when you put stuff in there, the salt, but I don't think it's too hard to believe this. The salt creeps around it. I mean, if you put a barrel of radioactive waste in, you drill a hole in a salt dome and you put a barrel of radioactive waste in there, the salt creeps back in and covers it up so that it becomes completely inaccessible. And the idea was that this waste would be accessible and we could maybe use it, but it's being covered up little by little, and they're drilling more what they call panels, which are just great big rooms in the salt dome. And they use the excuse from the 2013 accident to build more panels, and now they're planning on continuing WIP to 2038 or 83. I actually think they're planning on continuing it to 83. So in spite of the fact that it's called the waste, I can't remember the word for the I, WIPP, waste, we could say internment pilot project, and it's for military waste only. It was promised that it was a pilot project, but that's no longer true now. It's the go-to place for waste. And there is a rule about about how radioactive the waste that you put there can be. And so any waste that's too radioactive, they dilute it. I don't know how, and they make it less radioactive so that they can put it there. And this means that New Mexico, it's around Carlsbad. So if you haven't been to Carlsbad Caverns, you've probably lost your chance. It's near the city of Carlsbad, and that has now become a complete sacrifice zone because it's where military waste and now commercial waste is being contemplated to be put in there, even though that was also against the promises. Okay. So I wanted to talk about sacrifice zones that are being created. One of them is in southern Iowa. I do not mean that. I mean, it's in southern Ohio. And there's a thing called the, Ohio has a very strange agency called the Nuclear Future Agency of Ohio, or that's totally the wrong name. I should have been better prepared. And this nuclear agency in Ohio has designated Southern Ohio as a sacrifice zone, and they are now accepting uranium hexafluoride in a huge facility where they spin it and take out the explosive kind of uranium and separate it from the kind of uranium that's not explosive. Now, the explosive uranium is uranium-235, and the non-explosive uranium is 238, and 235 is less than 1% of the uranium. It is 0.7% in general. And they spin this and separate those isotopes so that uranium-235 becomes 10% instead of 0.7%. And then it becomes a special kind of fuel for all of the small modular nuclear reactors that don't exist. And I predict that there will be no small modular nuclear reactors in 2025. and that there will not be any before 2035 if they ever get off the drawing board. They're right now called PowerPoint reactors. And speaking of sacrifice zones, we talked about Ohio, southern Ohio. There's another sacrifice zone in the Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee. And the TVA has become a huge sacrifice zone of radiation for nuclear stuff. And New Mexico, all over the state, they have WIP down by Carlsbad. They have what you saw in the movie Oppenheimer at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. And they have, I've been there, and it's on a plateau above the Rio Grande. And they're planning on putting a bridge over the chasm. I mean, this is crazy. And they're planning on putting high tension wires over the chasm. And they're also dealing with the chromium hexavalent plume that came out of Lano during the Cold War that is now infecting the aquifer that the Indians use for their water. So Lano is a real pit. I don't intend to have a pun here. It's a really bad place with a lot of radiation that is getting into the atmosphere, and they're producing a tremendous amount of waste while they have a contract with the Department of Energy instead of the War Department. You know, they call this the Department of Energy, and they're making plutonium pits for our enhanced nuclear arsenal. And they're spending $1 trillion a year enhancing the nuclear arsenal because the War Department, these crazy people, believe that if we have the best nuclear arsenal in the world, nobody is going to bother us. But I think if you read Annie Davidson's book called Nuclear War, and please do read it, you will see that we are not made more safe. The more nukes we have, the less safe we are. So anyway, in New Mexico, there's Lano, that's Los Alamos National Lab. There's the WIP, there's Sandia. The Sandia National Lab is in New Mexico, and the whole state is becoming, plus the uranium mines that, they're uranium mines that never get cleaned up. New Mexico is no longer the land of enchantment. It is now the land of radiation. And okay, anyway, I don't want to talk about Wyoming. Wyoming is an extremely conservative state, and they are set to become a sacrifice zone. They're planning on the legislature in Wyoming is thinking that they're going to have a great big nuclear waste dump in Wyoming because they'll make billions on it, and it'll be our money because it comes from the Department of Energy. So I predict that in 2025, more and more people are going to object to the name Department of Defense. What are we defending? That is a War Department. It's our War Department. And to call it the Department of Defense is a lying euphemism.
Okay, anybody else? All right, anybody else wanting to go? All right, go ahead. Go ahead. You're up next. So the topic is pretty future predictions. All right, Jake, we'll let you go after Bill here.
Bill.
What?
Is Bill the guy from England?
No, I'm talking Jake here.
Is he the guy from England?
No, you're up next.
Melvin.
Kelvin's the guy from England.
All right. So I got here a little late. So everybody's freaked out about Trump. Did anybody talk about Trump, or I don't know? Well,
We haven't talked about Trump yet, no, but
No,
Kelvin did a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Russ, I don't know what you talked about, but this taking over and buying other countries, does it have to do with buying them before Russia invades them? Trump has some goofy ass ideas, and everybody's afraid of him. I think he's going to be the biggest pussycat. That dude's going to be engulfing him. An idea. He should be concentrating on toilet flushing and golfing and changing daylight savings time correctly. And that's going to be his big accomplishments. Because I got news for you. MAGA has been disrespecting Republicans for about 10 years now. Do you think they're going to go along with this creep? So everybody's, anyway, my thesis here is that everybody's freaked out about this creepy felon, criminal, pervert, whatever you want to call him, criminal, all of the above, all the sideways. So everybody's freaked out about Trump becoming president. I think he's going to be a big pussycat. He got his get out of jail free card, got elected. Harris, as it turned out, had a very poor campaign, appealing to Beyonce and Oprah people, not me, even though I voted for her. So the predictions are Trump's going to be like a do-nothing. He'll be on the golf course most of the time. And the Republicans on one side are going to be like, screw MAGA. They're jerks. I think a lot of Republicans are like, this MAGA group is just stupid. So I would not worry about this year. Nothing's going to really substantially get done because Trump's going to have all these poor ideas. Russ, Trump's the best idea. What the hell? He did nothing his first 4 years except give trillions of dollars to the super rich. His first 4 years, he did nothing. Name one accomplishment by Trump. He got good at signing. Anyway, that's all I got to do about this blowhard. And yeah, well, you know what? In a way, I'm glad he points that out, that we're still dependent on oil and oil wars. And, most of the country, a lot of the country is like anti-oil and coal and burning and pollution, air pollution, carcinogens. And so it's kind of like a dynamic going in either direction, right? Drill baby drills like Russ. Let's sit in the car lot, drive and drill, and oil wars, and all that expense going to that. And then I never was a frequent flyer, ever. I worked for 2 companies that made me drive through the Great Lakes, which I felt guilty about, but they paid me to do that. And I said, no, I'm going to be local. And now I'm making up for it because I only take trains and buses and bikes and walks. All right. Have you guys heard that sitting is the new smoking? You know what that means? They say sitting is the new. I try to stand up when I'm in a bus and a train now, because the sitting of people sitting at their computers, for hours on end, the housewives that are on Amazon half the day sitting, and people sitting in the car for half the day, Tim. And but sitting is, and I gotta agree with you, man. I've been walking a lot for the last 10, 15 years,
Yeah.
and biking, and not because I like it. It's, I got aches and pains. Biking is a challenge. I mean, it's okay. I still will go an mile or two. I used to bike here all the way from the lakefront. I can't anymore. My legs are shot. They're not shot, but when your body starts talking to you, it's like, they're saying they say you don't have to like be super yogas and super barbells. I screwed up my shoulder from changing hands with a 50-pound barbell. Now I can't use my shoulder much anymore. So you don't want to do anything extreme. As much as, the internets and the TV want to show people like, climbing cliffs and running and jogging. You don't want to do that stuff, but you do have to keep your body moving. So I got to agree with that when I heard that on a health show.
What's the prediction?
Yeah, what's the predictions?
Yeah, what's all this stuff about?
CP, you ought to get out once in a while a little more. Not now when it's cold, but you got to keep moving.
Let's not criticize Charlie right now. Let's keep moving forward.
When can we criticize Charlie?
Well, I'm
I want to
trying
hear a prediction.
Yeah,
I kind of put it out there that Russ thinks Trump's the greatest idea ever, and drill baby drill. And then I was saying that burning. Yeah, right. Did you hear about that terrorist that illegal immigrant in New Orleans? He came over from the wall. I know, he was an ex-military. But he had a funny name. So Trump, yeah, this is like how stupid Trump is. He gets on the screens right away. Look at that. I was right about look at terrorists coming over the wall. And then he comes out and says that guy in New Orleans was a terrorist coming over on the wall. This is the kind of lies and stupidness we've come down to. And I think the Republicans are going to fight this big old fatty, this nut that's just happy he's not going to jail. And he's not going to get anything done. He's going to be a pussycat and go golfing and still be a little hard, talk nonsense for 4 years. Nothing will get done in this country. And we won't even drill baby drill more. That's my prediction. And buying up countries, who the hell wants to be part of America? Really? Who wants to be here where we finance billionaires and super rich and just have a huge, the only thing we have is really a huge War Department. I agree with you. War Department, we got to go back to that name as the War Department, just so people know that it's not about defense. So yeah, Trump will hang out with Putin. So anyway, my prediction is that this guy is going to be totally ineffective because of the Republicans that have more sense than MAGA.
They're eating each other though.
Eating each other.
okay, okay.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of good Republicans. I vote for Republicans.
All right, Jake, you got your hand up. You can go next. Unmute and give your predictions, Jake. Jake?
Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you now, Jake.
Okay.
You're next.
Okay. Hi. Yeah. Okay. About Trump, I suspect that half of what Trump wants will never make it through Congress. Even his Republican base will reject half of what he wants because he's pushing too far. I can't think of any specific example. Well, one example comes to mind. It's already happened. Half of his cabinet picks are already being rejected by the mainstream Republicans because they just don't make it. Like Gates and what's her name, this woman who he's appointing to defense. What's her name? Chief of the CIA. She doesn't have the credentials for it. And Gates is very controversial with everyone. And I can't remember. Robert Kennedy Jr., of course, is very controversial because of his various conspiracy theories. Although Trump has said we're not going to stop the polio vaccine. That's not going to happen. What else? What's her name? Tulsi Gabbard, who's controversial as for Defense Department. Is that what he's appointing her to? because of certain things that she's done. So he's not going to get everything done that he wants. My prediction is that he got in mostly for economic reasons. My prediction is that everything he tries to make the economy better will end up making it worse. And plus, economists are predicting that by 2026, there could be a worldwide post-COVID recession, in which case he'll be blamed for it, and the Republicans will be blamed for it, and in which case we could have a return of the Democrats to both the House and the Senate. We'll see what happens there. There may be other factors involved, including a lot of negative campaigning, mudslinging, and so forth, to confuse the public. Plus the use of artificial intelligence to try to sway the election. That's another whole new ballgame. There have been a lot of commentators on television and so forth who had discussions of that. We need to really regulate artificial intelligence so that you can't use it to confuse the public. Basically, that's the issue that's brought up over and over again. It's not a free speech. It's not a free speech. They'll frame it as a First Amendment free speech issue, but the First Amendment is not universal. You can't go shouting fire in a crowded theater, or you can get arrested for it. And likewise, you shouldn't be able to say bold-faced lies on artificial intelligence, or what's the word? Impersonate someone who's running for office and putting words into their mouths. That's already happening. AI will make it worse in order to confuse the public. What else was I thinking here? Let me think for a minute. There could be more voter suppression coming up. Again, use of artificial intelligence to try to take people off the poll, the voter rolls, and so the voter registration rolls and so forth, without their knowing it, stuff like that. What's the other thing that? There were some commentators who, this hasn't come up much, but there were some commentators on this one show. There were some commentators who were saying that Trump owes something to Sam Bankman-Fried. He's the what do you call it? Bitcoin guru. What do you call it? Bitcoins are like, it's hard to describe. It's like artificial money that's created over the internet, and people are buying and selling them. They're like investments. There was one commentator who was predicting that Trump will take us off of using gold as a standard for currency, and instead install cryptocurrency as the standard, which would be very destabilizing. I hope he doesn't do it, but that would be very destabilizing for the economy, because Bitcoins, turns out, there's a lot of fraud involved, but also it's a very unstable form of currency. It's basically a form of currency that's not controlled by a government or by a bank. I don't know much about it, but that's what I know about it. What else was I thinking here for a minute? Yeah, there may be some more deregulation of the Department of Agriculture right here. It's already starting. The meat packing industry is wanted this for a long time. Traditionally, if you pick up a package of meat at the grocery store, it'll be a little stamp on it saying inspected by U.S. Department of Agriculture. Traditionally, there'd be a representative of the Department of Agriculture in each meat packing plant, and their job is to inspect the meat to make sure that it's safe, that there's no like salmonella or food poisoning in it, and that kind of thing. More and more, the meat packing industry has been they've been lobbying the Department of Agriculture for years to get their own people in there, and it's already started in part of the meat pack for chickens, I think, or for beef. I can't remember. But some of the meat packing, the point is, some of the meat packing plants that's already happening, where you have, instead of an outside government agency inspecting the meat, they have the meat that's packed inspected by their own people. So to me, that's like the wolf guarding the hen house, and I think that'll become more and more universal, and also more and more problematic. It's under the guise of making it more efficient, so that you can get more. You can produce more meat in a shorter amount of time that way. That's the rationale for it. It speeds up the process. But I think it'll be problematic because we could end up seeing more food poisoning and more foodborne diseases in meat, and it could happen without anybody knowing it until it happens. Unfortunately, that really scares me. We take it for granted. We have probably the most stringent food safety standards in the world. You go to a lot of third world countries, and there's a greater occurrence of foodborne illnesses and cholera and what's it called, that other Legionnaire's disease, that kind of thing, from impure water, that kind of thing. We have the toughest standards in the world. There's more regulations to making a sandwich than, say, for a nuclear power plant. The other thing I wanted to say, let me think. What was the other issue that came up? Let me think for a minute. Trump. I don't remember right now. What was the other issue that came up? Let me think for a minute. What was I thinking for a minute? About petroleum? No. Trump may try to drill more oil. We'll see how far he gets on that. Traditionally, years ago, there was strong bipartisan consensus against offshore oil drilling, because the liberals are opposed to it for environmental reasons, but the conservatives tended to be opposed to it mostly for economic reasons, because it tends to drive property values down. But that all ended after 9/11. After 9/11, it was decided that we need to take some of the oil revenues away from the Arab countries, and so now we've got more and more offshore oil drilling permits all over the country. One other issue too. Just one other issue briefly. That Trump is making a big deal of stopping illegal immigration. I think the concern is misplaced. What he should do instead is focus on helping put an end to the Mexican drug cartels. That'd be another tall order, but I think it'll be much better for the country. It'll be much better in all ways around.
Okay, is that it, Jake? All right,
Yeah, I think so. I forgot something else, but I can't remember what I was going to say then. Okay.
All right.
I'll come back
Ernie,
to it.
do you want to go next? I'll go last.
Yeah,
Ernie, if
can
you're
you hear
ready
me,
to go-
Tim? Can
Yes,
you hear
we
me,
can.
Tim?
Yes.
All right, I apologize. I had computer issues. I had to go down to the community room and use their Wi-Fi. So I don't know how well this will work. And I apologize if I duplicate what anybody said, because obviously I haven't heard the first half of the meeting. I've got one very short term, a couple of midterm predictions, and a long-term prediction. My short-term prediction is tomorrow, Bears-Packers. Everyone is expecting the Packers, and I'm a Packer fan, to walk over the Bears for the 12th time in a row. I think the Packers will ultimately prevail, but I think they're going to get a hell of a scare from the Bears tomorrow because I think they're going to go in there with a little too much confidence. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. A fairly early prediction. Luigi Manzioni, I believe is his name, the fellow who shot the healthcare executive. A lot of people have been kind of predicting this. They're going to have a very, very hard time getting a conviction from him because people are so disenchanted with corporate America, especially healthcare. And for them to find 12 people that will convict him, that's going to be very, very hard. They're going to manipulate like heck to try and get a jury that they like, and it's going to have some effect on our legal system. This trial will probably be more, how should we put it, more important or meaningful in the long run than the O.J. Simpson trial had, because of the fact that the jury is just absolutely not going to be sympathetic, or at least all it takes is one. The jury will not be as sympathetic to the prosecution as they would like, and the prosecution represents the elite. They're going to want a conviction very, very badly because they understand that this will destabilize the strength of the elites. I'm talking about government, corporate, and everything will be somewhat destabilized by this, and they're going to be very, very concerned about it. Prediction regarding Ukraine. If Trump does what he seems to be saying he's going to do, he seemed to be very, very buddy with Russia, and he's an authoritarian. And authoritarian leaders tend to get along with each other, one way or the other, and so he may just simply dictate a situation where not half, but the eastern third or so of Ukraine becomes part of Russia. This will basically take any credibility that NATO still has left, even though this is not a NATO issue at this point, because Ukraine is not a member. Basically, the U.S. will be shown, as they have actually been shown many times before, to be a very unreliable ally. Possibly the Europeans will establish their own security system to help protect against Russia, which obviously they don't. They collectively their traditional militaries are probably much stronger than Russia. Russia has been shown to have very, very not very effective military, but Russia does have 4,000 nuclear warheads, and between, I think, the only nuclear powers in NATO other than the U.S. Are Great Britain and France. And how many do they have? Do they have enough to make Russia think twice before invading? Don't know. We'll see. That's going to play out over a few years. With regard to Israel and Gaza, most of the nations of the world have condemned Israel, but none of them have shown any spine as far as attempting to control Israel in this situation and make them take a more reasonable stance. So Israel won't take a reasonable stance. They've destroyed Gaza. They'll eventually try and depopulate it with Arabs, Palestinians, and they may succeed, and they may ultimately set the goal over a period of a few years to create a nation that goes from the river to the sea or even further. And that, by the way, that saying was originally used by very conservative right-wing Jews. It was not the Palestinians. The Hamas, I should say, the Hamas types have adopted it to their use, and much to the liking of many. Hello, what's going on here? Okay, so anyway, much to the liking of many Western powers, they like Israel because they think Israel will control Iran. The main way Iran has been a problem in the past is that they're unfriendly to Israel. So I don't know exactly what the benefit of that is, but the Middle East may be taken over by Western powers through Israel. My main and most dystopian, all of my predictions are kind of dystopian and very negative, and unfortunately, I believe that's the way the world is going. This one is the most dystopian, and this will take place over many, many years. But as crime continues to grow, and we do not control crime in the more traditional ways, what eventually will happen, there's not something that could happen today, but if crime gets worse and worse and worse, and there are more negative incidents, the public support may go along with something like this, and they won't now. And that's basically, we'll all have a device implanted in our bodies, maybe near our brains, and everyone's basic location and their mood and possibly even their thoughts will be readable by a master computer somewhere controlled by the elites. And the technology is almost there now. We put these, I've forgotten what they've called, the little devices into our pets, and we can trace them. Now, that's just simply a one-way device, a tracking device, but there's back and forth technology that can be put into the human body. Pacemakers, many pacemakers can be read by a medical center, and also the medical center can give orders to that pacemaker about what it should be doing. So the technology is almost already there to have a device which can be put into somebody's brain and control it. It's not quite there yet, but it will be at some point in the near future. And as I said, right now, the public would not stand for this. More or less anywhere, the public, certainly not in the United States, where we're very, very independent-minded, but in even in the United States in the future, if things get out of control enough, government will use fear as one of the most important tools that government has and uses regularly is fear. And the government will cause us to fear crime. They'll cause us to fear. They already, to some extent, have caused us to enough fear not to walk down the street or trust our neighbors or whatever. And people will go along with this. And it'll be controlled by the elites. One of the things that will define somebody who's in the elites is they may not have to have such a thing, or it will be turned off. And I'm sure I'll be long gone by the time this happens, but I feel bad for the people in my grandchildren's age group over this. And I think that's enough dark discussion for now. I'll pass it on to who's ever next.
Okay, I'm gonna go next on my rebuttals. What I did was I did a little bit of a different analogy on this. I went and I actually asked the AI what to do. Can everybody see my screen here? Can everybody see my screen right here? Okay.
Small print, but it's there.
Okay, well, what I did was there's a new model out by Google. It's called Gemini Advanced, and it gives you deep research on what will be happening. I just asked it for predict your trends for the next year or so, and it's given me quite a crazy outline. And it's going to be a good time of rapid change and exciting possibilities. It's going to focus on advancements of technology, healthcare, finance, energy, and of course the world of fashion. The first thing that you're going to want to find out is the rise of agentic AI. It evolves from automation to independent decision making and human-like interaction. I've actually seen this myself with just the rise of some of the AI filmmaking tools they have. Example are, they'll have AI assistants, which means you can bring somebody along, and much like I use Gemini tonight, it'll help me compose a quick speech. There'll be automated content creation, AI avatars for meetings. The implications for your workforce and you guys is you'll do what Thomas Friedman in his classic book and what he always said, you're going to need to keep learning to learn. because things are coming fast. Now, the next big development is quantum computing. If you don't know what that is, it's basically getting computers much faster and using the subatomic level to get and harness more computing power on a microchip. They've been under extensive research by Google and some of these AI labs, and it'll change the way we learn with and training with immersive experiences. Examples are going to be training simulations in which you are interactive involved. It'll be personalized learning through extended reality. And in the quantum computing field, there'll be drug discovery, materials design, and financial modeling. For our cell phones, there's still going to be the existence of 5G with an expanding network and enabling a hyper-connected world, and the deployment of 6G with even faster speeds and new applications. AI-powered cybersecurity, which will be play a crucial role in detecting security threats and responding to diseases. And then, of course, in healthcare, AI is going to be becoming a bit more proactive in helping doctors discover diseases, revolution diagnosis, treatment, and drug discovery. Examples in what they'll wind up doing are analyzing medical images, predicting patients' outcome, and all assisting in surgeries. There'll be a value-based core model, prioritizing patient outcomes over care coordination, which means basically they're going to be more power in providing the actual outcome of the patient rather than the care coordination between them. Telemedicine and remote patient monitoring, we're providing greater access to care and improving patient convenience to them through telemedicine and stuff like this. Now, what's really going to happen here? A shift in financial insights. Basically, right now, we do a lot of data analysis, and it's going to be, we do a lot of the operations, but with AI, it's going to be a lot more chunking and data analysis, and there's going to be a lot more automation in the actual crunching of the numbers, going from operational finance to what they call a data-driven insight, where a human will be able to look at the financial market or whatever and make a good guess about it. And these tools are going to help humans do a lot more. We had dispersion in global equity markets, along with some higher interest rates coming in there. Now, energy trends, there's going to be a good growth in renewable energy, meaning that, wind, solar, and other forms will be more capacity will be getting online. And the thing is, I hate to say this, according to one of our previous things, but there are significant things happening in the small modular reactor space, particularly in thorium. As of right now, China's got one running, and they're going to be, hopefully within the next 2 years, commercializing it, along with several firms that even Wall Street started to get into that will start making this happen. What's really funny is just in the fashion trends that are coming around, there's going to be much more of a emphasis on sustainability. Well, what you wear today, it'll be get done tomorrow. And for the women, there'll be a personalization, and with some of the new tools coming out, co-creation of the garments that women wear as well as men. And there'll also be a emphasis on vintage and secondhand fashion that a lot of the women will be using. So we'll start seeing not just one look that dominates the world, but many looks. It's been going on for quite a while. The thing is that the other thing are geopolitical risks, meaning we're going to be having some more escalating conflicts and trade wars, particularly with Trump's tariffs and some of the other things that are going on. There's been a good rise in nationalism and a more emphasis on authoritarianism. The cybersecurity threats are another one that's going to be involved with this stuff. We'll probably have some more economic uncertainty, particularly under Trump with his inflation policies, rising interest rates, and potential recessions. And with the way we're going right now, we'll have social and political polarization. How are we going to prepare for the future? Well, basically, we got to have a little more adaptability and resilience, some sustainability, ethical considerations. And the thing is that customers are still going to be even more so driving economic activity. It means if you please the customer, that's how you make your money, and then you'll leverage social media. In the year 2025, a dynamic landscape of opportunities and challenges, and proactive compared to the future. Now, what Gemini does, as you can see, it gives you the sources of almost everything that you can use. I can click on a link
This
and
is
find out
just
more.
this is just advertising, man.
Charlie,
One
shut.
fool at a
It's
time.
not-
It's
One full-
advertising.
Well, Charlie, it's not advertising because I think it
Yes,
just
it
did a
is. They
good
want you to invest. They want you to invest. That's all.
Well, Charlie, again, the speech was quite well done over time. And I think basically, if you want to see anything, it's not advertising. I did this in less than
Yes, it
20
is.
minutes. Well, for you, it's there. I'm just saying this is where some of the AI is coming through. And I have a feeling, once I get and looked at this, I tend to agree with a lot of what this Gemini Advanced did. It did a lot more work than I would have been able to do over 2 or 3 nights. And the one thing is that this stuff's going to be much more popular over time. I'm going to stop the share because honestly, Charlie, you're thinking it's all advertising. You're just looking at the one thing. Yes, Google wants investors. Yes, they're there. What I'm showing you is that the tools are here now, or some of this stuff's going to be coming down the pipeline, and that you better, keep going with it. You said something about AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. Sam Altman from, Sam Altman, the guy founder of AI and some of this stuff, is going to be using this quite well. And anyway, the one thing is that it's on the one hand very frightening, and on the other hand very beneficial to mankind because we've all seen what's happened in the last 25 to 30 years with the development of the internet and the computer. We're all able to stay connected. We're all able to do stuff. At the same time, we've also seen some of the problems that have been coming in. A lot of what we do is I think myself right now, we're in a similar time like the Victorian age, a time of great discovery, and also a time of great exploitation by corporations and workers against the workers. If you remember back then, there was a big rise in unionization, a big rise in civil discourse and civil dissent. But at the same time, we were able to take things like antitrust laws, unions, and actually, I know we had a couple world wars, but eventually we made out all right. For a long time, we had a good balance between corporate profits and workers' sustainability, and we need to get back there. But I'm afraid we're still going to be seeing a lot more drastic change and people not wanting to do the right thing. And there will be always something. Again, it's human nature. How we, again, describe ourselves and how we look at ourselves. It's going to be, anyway. Sam, I see that there too. To me, Google represented the thing. Basically, what it did was it took about 90 websites, it took the content of them, it summarized them, and it did a pretty decent job of developing future trends. And I think that I agree with a lot of this stuff. I mean, I use it a lot for myself, and then I'll put in my own original thoughts, but that's how it's worked. And this is where I see the next year going through, a little bit more conflict. I think eventually we're going to see things coming right, but it's going to take 1 or 2 years before we get the balance out. And that's all I've got to say. So now at this point, we're skipping questions. It's 8 o'clock. We're going to go into rebuttals now. And if you want to go up, again, I'm going to flip the thing over to the front. And if you want to rebut, I'm going to give everybody about 2 or 3 minutes to talk about what was said or what was going on. And our first rebutter is going to be, whatever. And then I'll get Jake, and then I'll go between online and here. So go ahead.
I have to disagree with Dan about autism because just yesterday on the radio, I heard the music Till Eugenspiegel's Very Merry Pranks. And Till Eugenspiegel was a guy from the 1500s who was autistic. And the German village couldn't put up with his antics, and he could not correct himself, and they killed him. So I just wanted to say that autism is not new, but I will say, is this on?
Yes, it's
Oh,
on.
autism is not new, but I'm sure that it's a much more prevalent than it used to be because of chemicals and various crazy shit that comes down. And then I also wanted to bring up the subject of Paul Street's 17 stupid things not to say in 2025. And if you can access that, I have it in a document and I would be glad to send it to you. My email is janbudar1@gmail.com. And I've compiled Paul Street's 17 stupid things not to say in 2025. And I'll send it to you if you want me to.
Okay, let's go with Jake next. Do you want to rebut, Jake? Then we'll go to Joe, and if somebody squeezes in online here. So Jake, you're next. Go ahead. Jake, unmute. You're next. Jake. Jake.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Just response foreign policy issues. Response to this is a response to Ernie. Number one, I don't think that Israel will overtake over the Middle East with the help of the United States. Number one, Israel is not a U.S. colony. It never has been. That's a common misconception. In fact, when the Israelis were fighting the War of Independence, they got very little help from the United States at first. If anything, the Soviet Union was helping them, ironically, because I think they saw a budding socialist movement going on in Israel, and they wanted to help them. That's my rationale for it. It was later on when the United States became an ally of Israel. That's and some of the Arab Stalin backed off, and some of the Arab countries, in particular Syria, asked him for help. So that's when Stalin got involved in the Middle East on the other side. If you follow what happened recently in Syria, the demise of the Assad regime, part of the big reason for that is because Putin could no longer afford to help the government of Syria, so without Russian help, the Assad regime collapsed. Their military collapsed, and Putin gave political asylum to Assad so he could go and live in Russia. But the point is that I'm predicting the reason that Putin is so broke is because of his ongoing war in Ukraine. And my prediction is that sooner or later the Russian government will go bankrupt, and then they'll be at the mercy. And ironically, they'll be at the mercy of Zelensky. Zelensky will then have the upper hand in the negotiations. Let's see what happens, regardless of where he's getting his weapons. If he doesn't get his weapons from us, he'll get them from Europe, because the European countries are much closer to Ukraine, and they don't want no Russian invasion. But as I was saying about Israel there, I think the current situation, ironically, does not favor the Israelis. It favors the Iranians. Iran could come in and take over the place very easily. And if you remember, there was an ongoing dispute between Iran and the Saudis and some of the other Arab countries in the Middle East. The Saudis don't want the Iranians there either. So it's a very bitter dispute between the Saudi Muslims versus the Sunni Muslims versus the Shiites in Iran. So let's see who wins out there. What was the other thing I was going to say here? Again, about Ukraine. I don't know what's going to happen there, but again, I think that Ukrainians will not allow Russia to take territory if they can help it. What's the other thing I wanted to say there? Something,
Jake,
I
we're
can't
gonna
remember,
have to-
something else came up. I can't remember.
All right, Jake, we're gonna have to cut you
Yeah.
off. Who's our next one
Okay.
wants to go from live?
Okay.
All right, anybody else? Yeah, go ahead, you're next. And then we'll go to, Joseph and, we'll alternate between live and rebuttal. So go ahead, you're next. Trying my best to keep get everybody in and keep everybody under control. So go ahead there.
Kathy Powers again. I forgot to say something about the norovirus. It's a nasty gastrointestinal thing, and for us older folks, it could be bad, really bad. Wash your hands. The sanitizer doesn't really cut it. Wash your hands. I go to public restrooms all the time. I don't see anybody besides me washing hands. Wash your hands. Mask up. That's all I can say. Keep well.
Okay, Joseph, you're next. And then we'll get our next, Joseph, go ahead.
Okay, so my predictions, like Ernie's, are pretty pessimistic. Think people are going to continue to support legalized theft in the form of taxes, legalized murder and rape and slavery in the form of war. They're going to turn a blind eye to cops and judges and lawyers committing crimes and choosing those professions because they want to commit crimes, and legislators who choose to be legislators because they want to create loopholes in the law so that they can commit crimes and their constituents can't. I think people are going to continue to not read the Constitution, specifically Article 1, Section 8, which contains the enumerated powers of Congress, of which there are only 17. And because they're not reading the Constitution, they will continue to not know what level of government the change they want is supposed to happen at. So they'll sit around wondering, how come the federal government, which is the biggest polluter on the face of the earth with the military that's killed 12 million Muslims, basically genocidal, how come the evil federal government isn't suddenly turning good and giving me all I want and all my hopes and dreams? So government has become unmanageable because people are not being taught properly how to manage it. And I think the more that people support things like legalized theft through taxes and these other forms of legalized violence, as long as the party that they're a member of or the majority or the state or all of the above approve of those forms of evil and crime, just legalized, because they don't understand how the government works, they're going to continue to resort to doing things like killing CEOs on the street. And people are just going to keep turning blind eyes towards crime because there's always someone more evil that they can point to and say, well, at least I'm not that guy. But it's called whataboutism. It's like, what about that guy? And then they don't say, well, that makes it okay for me to do that bad thing. They're just, both major parties are just going to continue to become hypocrites and do the wrong thing just because the other party's doing something similar. Oh, but it's not exactly the same thing, so I get to do my evil thing. And yeah, people are going to resort to crime because they don't know how the law works anymore, or the Constitution, because our government's broken and the Constitution doesn't work in the same way it was supposed to. And we're getting to the point where we can't teach people how the law works because it doesn't work. And I think people are going to be more likely to resort to mob rule and other extrajudicial ways of trying to achieve justice, like we saw with the CEO of United Healthcare killing. So that's my prediction. It's pretty grim, but things are going to keep going downhill. People are going to keep turning a blind eye towards things like Donald Trump and Elon Musk's connection to Epstein. And just because Trump isn't the worst president in their lifetime, everyone's standards have been lower, and they like the person who does the least evil. They never stop to ask themselves, am I supporting evil? What can I do to not support evil? So it's not really a prediction. It's just more of an observation of the patterns in the past. And I predict that that's going to continue because people are not receiving proper civic education. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Okay, all right, it's you go up there and go ahead. You're next. You're next. Karina, I'll get you after, she's online. So you go next. I'm alternating between, live and online. So go ahead, you're next.
All right. Speaking of criminals and Trump, they kind of go together as well as Israel. So the other reason I think Trump is going to be a pussycat too is, correct me, give me some help here. I think he's trying. He's all his billions and all his lawyers are trying to get him out of the New York convictions, but I think he's still on the hook for that. He could be locked up. I don't think they're going to do that. They're going to wait till he's out. He's a private citizen. So but what other things is Trump still on the hook for crimes and felonies and stuff? I think Georgia is still active. The state charges. It sounds like Georgia screwed it up, but it's Georgia, But he's going to get out of the insurrection. He's going to get out of the stealing the documents like Biden did. So I think that's why Trump will be a pussycat, because he knows that Republicans and Democrats still have some power on him as far as when these 4 years are over, and he doesn't want to go to jail again, risk it. So he knows that these people still have some say so. Okay, speaking of Trump and criminals more, Ernie said that the crime is up. You know what? Hey, Chuck went up for Illinois or Cook County, I'm not sure, but up until this new prosecutor, Fox is out, her experiment was horrible. And so she would let any criminal that stole $1,000 or more, or $1,000 or less, not be prosecuted. So we had all that petty crime and burglary, and heck, my jacket got stolen 2 weeks ago. And my keys, that's going to cost me almost $500. So, but the new prosecutor, Burke, she's county or she's city or Illinois or what? So she has immediately changed it back down to $300. So if you see a creeper or your local store, no, $300. 5,000 what?
They don't get any.
No, wait, hold on. I checked on it. It's it was under Fox $1,000 and above. So they would not go after that creeper, that criminal. So, but now it's down to 300. So tell your local stores if they have criminal problems. $300. I mean, all it takes is a nice handful of stuff. It's going to be around 300. And the cops are going to handcuffs, pound on you, and you are going to go to jail. So
$5,000 thing is about, you pay mail while you wait for your.
Okay,
your trial.
let's finish up.
wait, I got two other points I want to talk about Israel.
You
And
know, the judges can't let the people out. If there's something
oh, you're talking about the cashless bail.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if it's $300 or more, they're going to be in jail, locked up at least for, and it's a felony.
Yeah.
So, Ernie, I think crime is going to go down finally now that Fox and her bad ideas is out, and I'm pretty sure, that murders are on a downtrend. As far as those creepers. So that crime, I think, is going to eventually, people are fed up with crime, and then Trump's anti-crime, but Trump's crimes are fine to him. So that crime. And then as far as Israel, I mean, if you start killing 10,000 kids, you got to make huge reparations. If you start destroying all these thousands of homes that people lived in and their belongings, and bombing refugee camps that with American money and American bombs, Israel is listen, Europe calls them criminals, except for UK, they're spineless. But when Europe, where they have all these intelligent governments, when they call Israel war criminals, and America doesn't, there's a big problem. I mean, we got a lot more smarter people in Europe than we do in this country. So Israel's got to get prepared to pay huge reparations, get their ass out of there, and start listening to what Europe wants and other Middle Eastern countries, because this is a shame to finance killing of children and doctors and journalists in that country. Okay, so that's Trump, and then that's Israel and creepy criminal Israel, and then the petty crime and murders are. I think they're going to start turning around. I think, and I'm fine with Trump. There's some. Don't get me wrong. There's a few things Trump I agree with. So, but most of it, no. Okay.
Okay, Karina, you're next. Go ahead. Okay, Karina, you're next.
I heard you. I heard
Karina?
you. Okay, I agree
right.
with a lot of the predictions, and I think that a lot of people brought up some great points. A lot of people mentioned the bird flu, and I think it's a high probability that the bird flu might become epidemic in the United States, or we might get some other disease epidemic coming through. We may not have seen the last of the bird flu affecting human beings. People talked about nuclear energy. We are headed towards nuclear energy. Timing, it's kind of like electric vehicles. When exactly, I don't know, but we're not going to be able to meet the needs, our energy needs, with just gas and solar. Nuclear energy will be the way to go. In the meantime, we will continue burning fossil fuels in 2025. Now, the big unknown is how successful will the Japanese scientists be with the hydrogen fuel cell. I'm very intrigued. I don't know if we can have a sustainable use of the hydrogen fuel cell. There was a talk that there will be more mass shootings in 2025, and I believe that's true. And I think that's going to be caused by people who have some brain damage. Soldiers that may have had multiple concussions through the ammunition, but I definitely think we will be more susceptible. We will have more mass shootings both in the United States and in Europe, and possibly a terror attack as well. From somebody who sympathizes with the Palestinians and the hell that they're going through. And some other things, there will be a falling out between Trump and Elon Musk. You can't have two egos no, if it hasn't already started over the H-1B visa program, there will be a falling out between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. I concur with Kelvin on that. I think that's very, very, very likely. I think that NATO has lost its standing in the world. I think that Americans don't read the Constitution. I think that Silicon Valley will take control of a large part of the government and how we spend our money and what gets funded and what doesn't, and we'll get the president to sign the bills that they want. So a lot of people brought up points right along with what I was thinking. I do think that that there may be a global warming event that will affect the supply of food, Charlie, and will make us maybe take global warming more seriously. I do think that's possible. I'm just completely pulling this from out of thin air, but what something seriously damaged the sugar crop? Now, one thing that nobody mentioned that I thought was lacking was Ozempic, or that class of drugs that make people have less of an appetite. And I think that we may end up reaching a point next year where we're going to start to see the negative effects of Ozempic in that class of drug. I forgot what the greater class of drug was. And there may be class action lawsuits from people who have suffered or have tried to get off of, suffered from side effects, or tried to get off of Ozempic, and when they did, they immediately started gaining their weight back. And so I think one thing we missed was the effect of Ozempic and what it will have on the food industry. And the other big things that are tossed up in the air is the Ukraine war and the war that is in
Sudan.
Israel the Israel-Palestine war. I believe the Ukraine war might reach an end. I believe that Ukraine will lose some land to Russia, but I believe it will reach an end. And then I don't know about Israel. I'm not sure what's going to happen, if it's going to spread. I wish it wouldn't, but it might. And the United States will continue. We may be chastising Israel, but we'll open up our purse and fund them no matter what. Another thing that nobody talked about is entitlement, Social Security, and Medicare, and whether there would be an attack on entitlements or not. I know Kathy Powers did talk about nursing home and nursing care. I'm not sure if there's going to be an attempt to change the entitlements or not. I think that wasn't included in anyone's predictions, but I congratulate all the speakers. I think a lot of people made a lot of very cogent points, and I enjoyed this presentation tonight.
Okay, Charlie, you're next. Go ahead.
All right, and I also would like to thank all the presenters for some well thought out programs. I will focus on three things. Number one, under no circumstances has anybody demonstrated a harmful effect due to eating GMO foods. To date, there is no evidence whatsoever of any harmful effects. So don't go around asserting that automatically, or it may be they've been around for 25 years or more.
Go ahead and eat it, Charlie. I don't want it.
That's a longitudinal study that's been completed. If you do not have the facts, if you cannot establish causality, does not give you authority to make that assertion. Facts are facts. And that's until such time it remains neutral. Number two, also regarding autism, I could go on at length about this. I'm not aware, and I'm really suspect, of any neurosis or psychosis which is precipitated by diet. There was some issue that perhaps Alzheimer's was due to things we had ingested. However, autism is a condition of children during formative years, in particular 3 to 5 years of age. And if you follow your Freudian psychology or child psychology, to assert that somehow autism, which has been overdiagnosed well beyond its evidence within the community of children of the world, to assert that it's due to some sort of food or some food that you ingested is harmful to the children who actually have autism, was precipitated by experience. They experience a world that is harmful or threatening to them. It's traumatic experience that precipitates autism. It's like a catatonic stupor in adults. It's not due to diet. Now let's be careful about our assertions. I don't want to come to the college of complexes and hear a lot of do-wah-diddy. Either you have the facts in line or don't make these claims like that. And number three, now I write union contracts and I call it a list. When you put a list in a contract like the Constitution, the enumerated powers, it means it defines that the powers of that entity cannot be challenged. Now, is it limited to those lists, what's on the list? I'd have to look at it again. I don't see that in there. It means that these are the appropriate functions. They were defining basically what the 3 units of government do, and the final analysis, the review of what Congress can or can't do, if you know your civil service, is the Supreme Court. If the Congress of the United States exceeds its authority. But enumerated powers does not mean that that is the only thing ever in any circumstances the government of the U.S. Congress can in fact do. That's called the contract interpretation arguments. But anyhow, all right, I enjoyed it. I hope we can do this again next year. Thanks for coming out tonight, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, Ernie, do you want to say something?
No, nothing I can say briefly, so.
Okay, Carrie, you've been active in the chat. Do you want to say anything or not? I guess not, because he's been real active in the chat. All right, Jake, you got something more to say? Go ahead. You'll be the last one. Go ahead, Jake. Jake, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Charlie, autism is usually a birth defect that the person is born with. It's not something that's gained after they're born. That's my understanding of it. Understand, my father was a child psychologist, so I know. What? It's a birth defect that the person is usually born with.
No, it's children who've been neglected.
Charlie, let him finish.
You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. My father was a child psychologist. My father was a child psychologist, so I know all about that stuff.
Okay, Charlie.
You don't you don't know what you're talking about.
Jake, finish your rebuttal. Let's not argue.
Okay, all right. What was the other thing I was thinking? Oh, yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention, a lot of scientists are predicting that if the global temperature increases, that we could be seeing more pandemics. The rationale being that as the global temperature continues to rise, the process could favor certain types of pests which spread disease. And so we could be seeing a lot more pandemics come up. That's the prediction.
Okay. Is that it, Jake? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get up there. All right. Well, as we said, there's our predictions for the last 100, the next year or so. Just remember what it says in Ecclesiastes. There is nothing new under the sun, and everything is meaningless. The bottom line is, believe in God, believe in yourself, and have a good life. Thanks a lot, and the college is adjourned.
Who's speaking next week?
Billy on 9/11 conspiracy theory.